While survey research deals with gathering quantitative data from the sample from a defined population and determines the current status of the population with respect to one variable or the more than one variable, case study research involves in-depth investigation into a phenomena, process, individual, institution, or an organization. And the phenomena or the process is studied in its real context, and the boundaries between the phenomena or the process at hand and the context, they are not clearly evident. So the phenomena or the process is studied in relation to the context in which it exists. Case study tries to gather data from the multiple sources of evidence, which may include the individual working in the institution, the documents which are available, the physical artifacts which are available, and so on. But when we say case study, it follows the similar steps which are followed in research with a little emphasis on the propositions, the research questions, unit of analysis, etc. And it normally involves qualitative information. The very first step in conducting a case study is stating its objective or research questions. The next step is to state the propositions, and the third step involves describing the approach which is likely to be followed in conducting a case study. And then comes collection of data, and the last step is the analysis of data and interpretation of the results. Now let's see how objectives are stated for any case study. For example, you are interested in taking up a case study of an institution which is excelling as far as the academics are concerned and the placement of students is concerned. Some of the objectives may include tracing the historical development of the institute and identifying how the mission, goals, and objectives have changed over a period of time, and what are the existing missions, goals, and objectives. Also, you are interested in describing the nature of programs which are being offered and the characteristics of the students who take admission in that institution. You are interested in identifying the resources which are being used for carrying out the instructional and curriculum processes, and in addition, a host of other objectives including the nature of curriculum in place, the instructional processes that are being used to transform the input into output, the management policies, structures, processes which are adopted to manage the institution, and the kind of linkages the institution enjoy with other organizations and the industry. Likewise, identify the factors that could contribute to improving the quality of technical institution and those factors that could lead to deterioration of the quality of an institution. In nutshell, the whole technical institution can be viewed as a system, and the various subcomponents can be studied in a case study. The next step in case study is to state the propositions. And it is a very crucial step in case study, as the propositions are going to help you as a researcher to build linkages, to build associations, and to establish cause and effect relationship while you start interpreting the findings of the case study. For the case study in hand, that of technical institution, one of the proposition may be that students selected through entrance test, which screens them on the basis of the aptitude for professional program, could influence learning environment and output of the program. Now, this proposition may be the result of the studies which have been carried out, which clearly highlight that if the student possess the aptitude to pursue a program, they can show better or higher performance. Or it is theoretically also true that if a person possesses the aptitude, he is going to excel in that field. Another proposition may be that course offerings of great worth and relevance to the requirements of the world of work are considered factors that contribute to building excellence in a technical institution, because it all depends upon the curriculum which has been designed. If the curriculum is relevant and cater to the needs of industry, the acceptance of the graduates from the technical institution will be very high. So this can be one of the propositions to start with. And you can see, likewise, you can state propositions for instructional processes. You can make proposition related to assessment of student performance and management and so on. Then the third step in case study researchers describe in detail, in explicit terms, the approach which you are going to follow. And here you are concerned with selecting the unit of study. The unit of study can be an individual. Now, say for example, a student who is having emotional problems may be a case. An institution which is excelling in placements may be a case. So, a single institution individual can be a case, or a group of students who have similar characteristics. That means students who are having emotional problems, maybe they become one case, and the institutions which show high placement rate, they can become one unit of study. So while you finalize the unit of study, you must see that what constitutes the sample for the study is distinct from those who have been excluded from the study. The next step is to identify the available sources of data. In case study, data can be collected from documents which are available. Say for example, I am interested in instructional processes, then documents can be the lesson plans which teachers have developed, the kind of media they have used, the assignments they have provided, the questions which they have provided to the students for formative evaluation, and if the question papers are available, the kind of summative evaluation. So the documents related to that area is one source of evidence. Another could be the archival records, the service records, the board minutes, etc., which are available in the institution, the memorandum of understanding signed with industry. They may become archival records, or the service record of the teacher which provides you data how the professional development has been taking place in the institution and what programs the person has undergone. That may become a part of archival record. Interviews are the major source of evidence in case of case studies, and interviews are done with the various units of study. So if you are selecting one technical institution, the administrator, the teacher, the students, the staff working in that organization, they need to be interviewed with respect to the objectives of the study and the research questions which you have stated for your case study. The observations need to be made if you really want to go for verifying what the people have said. Some of the processes which are ongoing, they need to be observed. And for that matter, you would require observation schedules and physical artifacts. the machinery, equipment, tools which are available, the kind of furniture that is available, all these are nothing but physical artifacts which can provide you lot of information with respect to the questions which you have stated. Next step is to select and develop measuring instruments. As I said, interviews are the primary source of evidence. So, interview schedules, either structured, semi structured, or you have only want to take the field notes, so you have the questions in mind. So, you can develop either structured, semi structured, or unstructured interview schedule which can be used for gathering the data. You would also require observation schedules where ongoing processes need to be observed, and some of the quantitative data, if you want to gather, then questionnaires can be used in case study. So decide data collection procedure. This is the next activity when you are explaining the design approach. So how are you going to collect data from various sources of evidence that need to be explicitly described? The next step in case study is to collect data. So collect data from various sources of evidence, and before a researcher goes for collection of data, it is very important that it is ensured that the people or the team which is involved in the case study, they have the right kind of questioning skills, because they need to interview the people. They need to possess listening skills and adaptiveness and flexibility skills. Now, it is very important how to frame a question, how to pose a question, and how to respond to the questions. Because once you get the reply from the respondent, the person whom you are interviewing, what next question you would frame or ask, that is very, very important, and the continuity should not be lost. Probing questions need to be asked, and that's why it is said, while you prepare the tools for data collection, those tools should contain all the questions which you are going to pose, because interviews, when you're going for semi-structured, only gives the broad area. The framing of question would be done by the researcher himself. And listening skills become important because you are going to observe the verbal as well as the non-verbal behavior of the respondent, the person who is being interviewed, and you need to interpret both the behavior to come to the conclusions. Then next is that the team must have thorough understanding of the issue which is at hand. So they should be very clear of the objectives, the propositions which they have stated for the study, and then it becomes essential if there is need to train the people who are going to be in the interview, then who are going to make observation, then it is essential that training is provided to them how to interview, how to make observations, and how to build associations, and then also how to build causal relationship between different things. Then it is very essential that whatever material would be required during the collection of data, that is, as number of the interview schedule, observation schedules, you need adequate number of them if you're going to interview people or make observation of the ongoing processes. And it is also essential that you also carry along with you the recording facility if you have taken the permission to record the interview of the interviewees. And permission need to be sought from the competent authority. That means if you're going to visit a technical institution, maybe the director or the principal of the institution should provide you the permission that you can interview people, make observations. Otherwise, the interviewees will not be able to entertain you. While you collect data, you need to follow the principles of interviewing, principles of listening, principle of confidentiality, and you should respect the respondent or the interviewees who are going to be interviewed. Next step in case study is to analyze the data, which is a very, very difficult proposition. Because here, once you have collected data, it is enormous amount of data which is available to the researcher. So researcher needs to first prepare memos, and then he needs to codify those memos so that he can segregate the memos which pertain to a particular one aspect. Say, whatever has been said regarding the instructional processes, that becomes one bunch of information. And anything which has been said about the industry, that becomes another bunch of information. And then, keeping in view the propositions which have been stated at the second step, those propositions need to be taken into consideration while building relationship among different types of information which has been gathered and establishing cause and effect relationships between the information which has been gathered, because it is primarily the qualitative information which is gathered in a case study. Dao Yin has given 6 different structures of preparing the report of a case study. Normally, the cases are described in detail, and a linear structure is normally followed by the researcher in describing the case study. But you can follow other structures depending upon your objectives and research questions. But care should be taken that the authenticity of information should not be lost. And before you prepare a report, a draft can be given to the people who have been involved in providing you the information, so that the narratives which they have given, they can be included in the report, and they agree to it that the conclusions which have been drawn by the researcher are correct and convey what they actually wanted to convey. So care should be taken by the researcher that correct information is described or reported in the research report, and the researchers have normally been describing the case at length, one after the other. Thank you.